And I know that's quite a statement, but it was not peaceful, not at all. James Comey at the heart of it. Let's get to our guest. Greg Jarrett joins us once again, Fox News legal analyst, former defense attorney, and law professor. Greg, thank you for being with us again today. It was an interesting thing to see James Comey's name pop up in the news. Did it surprise you that this second indictment came through this week against James Comey?
No, not particularly. I mean, look, Comey was behind a lot over the last 10 years, beginning with the Russia hoax. You know, he has been accused of lying about leaks to the media during the Russia hoax, lying to the FISA court to obtain a search warrant and surveillance on the Trump campaign, particularly Carter Page, secretly weaponizing the FBI while denying it to Congress. You know, Comey loves to portray himself as St. James, but there's nothing virtuous about James Comey. And, you know, when he gets caught, you know, he engages in a pattern of fakery. He feigns ignorance. He plays the dummy to weasel out of wrongdoing. And, you know, in my judgment, he's a master of deceit. And so it doesn't surprise me. And look, I've said that there's going to be more than one criminal indictment against James Comey. We already saw one in Virginia, got kicked out by a judge, but that's on appeal. I expect that one to be refiled. Now North Carolina, and I think he can probably anticipate being indicted by the grand jury in South Florida.
You know, I think about what Americans like myself would like to see James Comey have to answer for. It's much more than an Instagram post and a threatening message, although I'm not opposed to that either necessarily. Do you feel as though the story that you've written so many times about with the Russia hoax and the way that they tried to impede Donald Trump to take power initially, to be able to be elected, and then when the American people chose Donald Trump, to make it so there was no way that he could effectively govern. Do you trust this Department of Justice with the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche or whomever he might be replaced by? Do you trust them to get to the business of this before the next 3 years are over?
Well, first of all, I never trust anybody in government, but
fair.
And nobody in their right mind would, given their recent track record over the last 10, 20 years. But look, Todd Blanche is a very fine attorney, former top federal prosecutor. He was one of the best defense attorneys in the nation when he took on 3 of the 4 criminal cases filed against Donald Trump, and he achieved success. So I'm going to give him a chance to see what he can do. But, you know, you're right to point out that this was, you know, a Department of Justice and the FBI back in 2016 that weaponized the law to try to stop Trump from getting elected the first time. And when that failed, they doubled down and tried to drive him from office and destroy him. It was centered around the Russia hoax. And it was all conjured up by Hillary Clinton, who in July of 2016 approved a plan to smear her opponent, Trump, with the phony accusation that he colluded with Russia. John Brennan, then CIA director, found out about it, rushed to the White House, and in 2 successive meetings with President Obama, Vice President Biden, James Comey was there, Clapper was there. Instead of, Brennan disclosed the plan. Now, all of the people in that room should have been mortified at what Hillary Clinton was doing. It was incredible corruption and dishonesty. They should have told the American people. They should have told Congress. Instead, they remained mum. And then Comey went about using the phony dossier as a pretext to, as I say, stop Trump from getting elected and thereafter driving him from office. it, was the greatest mass delusion in American political history and the dirtiest political trick ever played. And the people who did it have never been held to account.
Yes. I've seen Dan Bongino doing a few interviews. I think he had a conversation with Sean Hannity possibly. And Kash Patel has talked about Dan Bongino's effect on that department. But there's a lot of discussion about evidence, documents that were concealed, that were managed during the swamp's control of the department, which would likely be under James Comey, Merrick Garland at the AG office. Is it possible to take evidence like that and completely destroy it, or to completely hide it, and maybe we never actually get to an evidence-based truth?
Well, look, nothing ever gets fully and completely erased in this day and age of technology. But this was rather unique. The evidence of what I've described, the Russia hoax, and how it was completely contrived and made up, and all of the corrupt acts by those people who did it and hid it, all of that apparently was in burn bags in a secret room, squirreled away, and it was discovered upon the new administration that stepped into office in January of 2025. It took them a while to find it, but they found it. Bongino says, his only conclusion is someone or more than one individual, instead of burning it and destroying it, which, by the way, is obstruction of justice, wanted somebody to find it and to see with their own eyes the ugly truth of what happened. The truth which vindicates everything I wrote in 2 books, The Russia Hoax and Witch Hunt. And others have written about it as well. And when Bongino read through the documents in the burn bags, he was mortified. He was horrified at the level of deceit and corruption that had taken place. Now, that information has been preserved, and I think a lot of it is the basis for the grand jury investigation in Florida, a long-running, overarching conspiracy to weaponize the law against Donald Trump, a conspiracy that is stretched for the better part of a decade.
Greg Jarrett speaking with us, Fox News legal analyst, author, as you pointed out, the 2 books there that you wrote on this particularly important issue. Is there anything that you wrote that you... I just don't understand how you could be so ahead of this story and the justice be so far behind it, except for maybe you inject politics into it and that explains the whole thing. But have there been any revelations from what you've known in the book to right now? Or do you feel like your books still pretty much stand up to the story that is being exposed right now with more detailed evidence?
Well, I never got anything wrong. And what has been discovered only corroborates what I wrote. I did it based on very reliable sources. Plus, I did my own digging. I mean, I went through thousands and thousands of documents. Some of it was buried right there. The rest of it was, pure logic. I mean, look, one of the things that journalists fail to do, including the New York Times and the Washington Post, who got the story wrong and won a Pulitzer Prize for getting it wrong, they never did any fact-checking. So, for example, the dossier written by Christopher Steele and paid for by Democrats and Hillary Clinton's campaign was demonstrably false and easily disproven. But people at these, news organizations, including the major networks and CNN, took it as gospel. They peddled it as truth when it was easily disproven. And even the month before the Mueller report came out and said, sorry, there's no evidence of a criminal collusion conspiracy between Trump and Russia, CNN was still saying on air, oh, the dossier is mostly true. They never bothered to fact check it. Now, look, all you had to do was read it, and you'd start laughing. I mean,
Yeah.
it was such garbage, and it was so poorly written. It was obvious that it had simply been conjured up out of thin air. And so I sort of would say to my fellow journalists, where were your brains? I mean, did you actually read this thing?
Yeah, I think that that's still very worthy of our listeners' time to check out your books if they want a precursor to what's going on right now, because you've done a wonderful job with it. I did want to ask you before we let you go, and I know you've only got a couple more minutes, about this ex-Fauci advisor, Dr. David Morens, who has also received an indictment over an alleged COVID cover-up, hidden emails, trying to keep things out of the public eye. Can you just give us a little bit of a brief understanding? Everybody wants to see the word Fauci and indicted in the same headline. This isn't necessarily that, but what can you tell us about this particular one?
Well, I mean, I'll give credit to Rand Paul, but a lot of us knew it from the very beginning. It was preposterous that this pandemic virus that killed millions of people worldwide evolved naturally through animals. I mean, it never made sense. It was man-made, and it came from the Wuhan facility, and Fauci's government-supported outfit financed a portion of it, and Fauci, bears blame for the lives lost, and sedulously sought to try to cover that up. His role and the Wuhan lab's role, and people in government, because they knew our government had helped fund it. Through gain-of-function research, which should never have been done, also helped cover it up. And it's obvious now to scientists everywhere that that's what happened, that it was a man-made virus that was murderous. And, this is an individual who doesn't have a preemptive pardon from Joe Biden, who has now been indicted. And, I think the intention there is to flip him to tell the truth about Fauci and others. I know that Steve Hilton, who is one of the leading contenders for governor in California, is vowing to prosecute Fauci if Hilton is elected. And the preemptive pardon that Biden gave Fauci doesn't apply to state prosecutions. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Well, if I could, from Illinois, vote for Steve Hilton, I certainly would do that as well. Greg Jarrett, thank you for the time today. Do you feel as though there's more to come? The Comey indictment, this Fauci-connected indictment, more to come?
Yeah. I would keep a close watch on what's happening in Fort Pierce, Florida. Joe DeGeneva, who's a very fine former U.S. attorney, one of the best lawyers in the nation, was recently appointed by the president as a consulting attorney general and has taken over overseeing and managing the grand jury in Florida. And I interviewed Joe for my books. Joe knows all about the Russia hoax and the other scandals, and he seems determined to me to hold people accountable in a court of law. So, I keep an eye on that. I think there's a lot more to drop.
Well, we will do so. You said the word accountable there. I think accountability is what a lot of people are asking for, and you've been on the front lines of trying to make sure people know the truth. We thank you for sharing that with us today.
My pleasure. Good talking to you.
You as well. Thank you so much. Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, former defense attorney, and law professor, author. Lots of great books to check out on X at